Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. The Mutual UFO Network, next month during its annual symposium held in Las Vegas, appropriately, is going to reveal to the world some materials that came from recovered UFO, something they're not being very clear, but apparently it's something from a UAP that they're going to reveal to the world, and it's materials that are unearthly, not of this world. 90% of the components of this material is unknown. And but what's interesting about this story is that some of these materials have been stolen, and we're going to talk about that among other things today. But anyway, this yesterday there was a they put out a submission statement, and I'm going to read it here. And it says here, in what is being called the most important UAP-related presentation MUFON has ever made, the Mutual UFO Network will reveal details about a UAP materials case it recently received from Russia in an exclusive live event on Saturday, July 13th, 2024 at 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. The case will be presented both in person and via live stream at MUFON's annual symposium, revealing the story behind mysterious materials delivered to the home of a Russian UFO investigator with evidence of a cover-up. Tests by Russian labs, later corroborated by MUFON's own United States lab, confirm the material is of unknown origin. While virtually any material can be identified by its components from the periodic table, unknown combinations of or isotopic ratios can often point to a mysterious origin of samples. In this case, 90% of the sample is made of materials that labs were unable to identify. So this is really interesting stuff. And so I can't wait to find out more details about what this material is, or how they got it, or where they think it came from. It's going to be very interesting. Obviously, there's been so many great things happening in the UFO community over the last few years. This is incredible, and this seems like something even more to throw on to more fuel for the fire. And I'm really excited about hearing what they have, what this material is, what they think it is, and where they think it came from. And it's going to be a very interesting presentation, I'm sure. But anyway, let's read the rest of this little article here. It says the story becomes even more compelling as some of the samples sent for additional testing were stolen from an official United States post office box shortly after they arrived for retrieval by MUFON investigator Robert Spearing. On top of this, cameras were turned against the wall, inhibiting investigation, although postal workers testify that they delivered the box. And here's a quote from the MUFON Media Relations Director, Ron James. He says, "This is typical with evidence of this nature. We believe that this material was deliberately taken by someone who could hack into a locked post office box to prevent further testing. Who did it is anybody's guess." And then he went on to say that the evidence that supports this story and others that we will share at the symposium could make this the biggest UFO-related news event of the year. We have physical materials and more evidence of non-human technology. Well, as we all know, a lot of us out there already know. Well, people in MUFON, they already know. Everybody knows. People in the UFO community, for the most part, knows that there's something here. We know that we're being gaslighted. And look what happens here. Now, who are these people? Who would steal this stuff? Like, how I mean, obviously, MUFON's being watched by somebody. Somebody's interested in making sure that the world doesn't learn about this stuff. And how many stories? We were just talking in the previous show about some of these kind of events when they happen. Like Rex Heflin back in 1965 when he took those great pictures, the 3 great photographs of a flying saucer, and then some phony people from NORAD show up. He thought they were really real people from NORAD, and they asked if they could borrow the pictures so they could make copies, and then they never returned them. And then 28 years later, he gets a strange phone call saying, "Go check out your mailbox," and he goes out there, and the photos are returned. I mean, what was that all about? It's like there's people who are just don't want other people to learn anything about this. They want to keep this the entire human race ignorant about this presence on this planet, and they'll go to any length to make sure that happens. And actually, just recently we were talking about that whole fiasco with Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director of the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, where he got caught lying in his interviews with the UFO debunker and total idiot Stephen Greenstreet. he basically got caught lying, and actually back in 2018, Fugel, who owned Skinwalker Ranch, had met with Kirkpatrick to give him a PowerPoint presentation on what they were learning about Skinwalker Ranch, and then Kirkpatrick, when he was interviewed by Stephen Greenstreet, completely denied any of this. They said he didn't even know Brandon Fugel, didn't think he ever met him. But fortunately, Brandon Fugel had one of his operatives take a picture when they were having this meeting in Washington in 2018. But the interesting part, and this is something Fugel just brought this up recently on Twitter, he's surprised that a lot more people aren't talking about this. The fact that Kirkpatrick was exposed as a giant liar based on this story written by Stephen Greenstreet. He's surprised that no one's talking about it. And meanwhile, Stephen Greenstreet's acting like he didn't make this error, that he didn't make this mistake. He's still running around Twitter, blatantly bald-faced lying to everyone about this whole thing. He doesn't even acknowledge it. We're just moving on. People are moving on, pretending it's not that Kirkpatrick didn't lie, and he did. He got caught lying. But what was really interesting about this, and the reason I'm bringing this up, is because if you remember, it wasn't just the fact that Kirkpatrick got caught lying, but we learned more details about this incident where when the day before, somebody stole the flash drive where he had this PowerPoint presentation, but luckily one of the people that works for him had the PowerPoint presentation saved on the computer. This was a question asked by Tim McMillan on May 11th to Brandon Fugel. He said, just to add to the intrigue surrounding all of this, Brandon Fugel, can you confirm that all your prepared presentation materials went missing from your hotel room the night before, forcing you to use a backup set for the briefing? And Brandon replied saying, confirmed, the flash drive containing the briefing was stolen from my room, which was the presidential suite of the Grand Hyatt, Washington, D.C., the morning of the briefing, while locked and attending a quick meeting at my Collier's International D.C. office located nearby. I reported the situation to hotel security and the front desk. Fortunately, and to my surprise and relief, my principal investigator and scientist, Eric Bard, had saved a copy to his laptop the night before. The briefing was able to proceed. And also, just one other quick thing here. Rob Sheridan had asked him, was there an agenda sent out ahead to all attendees, and when did all attendees receive an invite to the presentation? Was it made clear to all that Skinwalker Ranch was the scope of the debrief? And Fugel responded saying, yes, it was crystal clear. The sole purpose of the briefing was to provide an update regarding the research activities and data gathered under my ownership of Skinwalker Ranch. There was obviously advance notice and an agenda circulated. Now, we all know that Kirkpatrick got caught lying about this during his interview with Stephen Greenstreet, but what's also interesting is the fact that he didn't know that his picture was taken, apparently, because Fugel wanted to make sure, he wanted to have a record of this meeting, and he had one of his people, take a picture during this conference, during this PowerPoint presentation. And Kirkpatrick, obviously, he didn't know about this, or he never would have just told those lies. But you see how they get away with it all the time. Fugel was able to prove it this time, but here it's pretty much brushed under the rug. Like Fugel was saying, he can't believe more people aren't talking about this. But I want to get back to, who the hell would steal his PowerPoint presentation? I mean, which people in Washington knew that he was coming there to meet with Kirkpatrick to talk about Skinwalker Ranch, and why would they try to sabotage this PowerPoint presentation? Like who was involved in this? I mean, is it possible that Kirkpatrick might have some ideas about who might have done something like this? I mean, who did he tell? I mean, who are the people that knew about this? So, there's a lot of questions here with all of these kinds of thefts. Now, the material from MUFON, luckily, apparently, they still have some of the materials, some of these obviously otherworldly materials. I'm assuming it's metal materials, maybe from a UFO. They're not really clear about it. I guess we'll find out next month. But luckily, like Fugel had a backup there, a backup PowerPoint presentation. And luckily, MUFON didn't lose all of this material. that would have been disastrous. I mean, it seems like there's most certainly forces among us that are trying to prevent the world from knowing the truth of the situation here, the truth of the alien extraterrestrial presence among us. And you have to wonder who's doing this. I mean, we know this, right, from a lot of people who've been abducted over the years. You read all the literature. A lot of times you'll read stuff like the aliens are telling them it's not you can't remember this. You can't tell. They don't want these people to tell anybody else it's not the right time yet. It's not the right time yet, right? And then it's almost like if the government's doing this, it's like they're giving the aliens the time, like they're actually helping along with the aliens. And if it is the government. Or is the government being controlled by aliens? Is there a segment within the government that's under alien control right now? Is Sean Kirkpatrick under alien control right now, as crazy as that sounds? Are aliens pulling the strings above him in the secret control group? These are crazy questions that run through our minds because of the way this cover-up continues all the time. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy to me. I have trouble believing it myself. I have trouble believing David M. Jacobs, the assertions that he makes with regard to aliens among us. I mean, he talks in his books, The Threat and then Walking Among Us. Those books, I've talked about them numerous times on the show, where they created hybrids that look just like human beings, and they're all over this planet. They're all stationed all over the planet, and abductees under alien control are teaching them how to blend in with humanity without being noticed. Basically, showing them how TV works, how to cook stuff on the stove, all that kind of stuff. It sounds insane, but I have trouble believing that. In fact, I hope it's not true. I don't want it to be true, and because when you start thinking of the implications of if that is true, I mean, what are we going to do about something like that? What could we possibly do about something like that? And what are they planning to do? Are we supposed to just sit around and wait till they're ready? I mean, that's what it seems like. If that's the message they give abductees whose minds get blanked after they're finished with them, and they send them back into their lives, right? They get into those kind of messages. Are we just supposed to sit around and wait till the aliens are ready? And that's what the government seems like it wants to do too. They want to sit around and wait till the aliens make their next chess move. We're all supposed to sit around and just wait for it. That's what it seems like to me, folks. But again, in a way, I feel like when I think about this aliens living among us, I go into almost UFO debunker mode. Like I have trouble with it. I don't want to believe it. It's like I don't. Even though I know David Jacobs is a person who worked on this for decades, and that's the conclusions he came up with. So are there aliens among us, and are there aliens working or controlling segments, the portion of the government that's the gatekeepers? Are they part of that? Have they infiltrated that? Or are the gatekeepers working with the aliens? Or are the gatekeepers working against the aliens? We don't know, but there's an alien presence here, and government officials are keeping it secret from us. And we all know it's true. I mean, I've been talking on the show for the past few months now. We have the evidence. We all know it's right there. But it's being somewhat suppressed. Somewhat suppressed. I feel actually like my podcast somewhat over the past few months and is there's some kind of suppression going on with it. There seems like it's I put a video out this morning on YouTube, just a short little 6-minute video. And it was basically called Debunker Nightmare, and it basically points out how Mick West last year made comments that what the Kenmore family in Las Vegas experienced was just possibly coyotes or raccoons, right? So I put this little video together. I didn't put it on Spotify, but I will leave the link in the description for the Spotify listeners, because it's mostly just, there's not a lot of talking. It's mostly just visuals and music. There's a little bit of talking, but for most of that 6 minutes, it's a visual thing. And I just want to make a point. But, I sent a letter to the Pentagon last week. Will I ever get a response to that? Probably not. What are they going to say? I mean, anything they say, anything Mick West tries to debunk this, if the Pentagon comes out with a statement, tries to debunk what I sent to them, right, then, I mean, it would be, I would figuratively turn them into mincemeat. I mean, there's no debunking this. It's over. It's like we've been talking about. It's over. But I feel like there is some kind of shadow banning been going on with my stuff here recently. That's what it feels like. But what are you going to do? You got to just keep pushing forward. And And at some point, this what right now, all of these things, it's like a big, ugly, pus-filled blister on mankind's backside, and that needs to be busted so we can move on and get over this already. We need to face this, whatever it is, right? And end this obfuscation, end this moratorium on truth, because it's absolutely out of hand at this point when all of us are sitting out here and we're being lied to, gaslighted by people, all these people online, fooling, tricking other people all the time, telling people lies about this whole situation. You had, like last year, what was that guy, Garrett Graff, an establishment hack, very intelligent guy, puts this book together, which was complete, absolute nonsense, complete bogus, filled with lies, misinformation, disinformation. It seemed like it was an obvious effort to misinform the public about the UFO situation. The only good thing about that book by Garrett Graff was the title, UFO, and after you open up the first page, everything goes downhill from there. So that's where we are, folks. It's people stealing things. People steal, like when people come close to figuring things out or having end all evidence to present to the public, things like this happen. You have somehow people show up and they know where your post office box is, and they turn the cameras around and they steal it, and then nobody knows anything. Like, the only people that could do something like this would be people who were working with the government, CIA or whatever, or is it the aliens themselves, or is it the aliens and the government working together to keep all the rest of us stupid? Is that what's going on? That's why the government needs to come out with the truth already, because we can't be going on. We can't live like this anymore. It's absolutely absurd. And just here's another thing to think about, too. That if had the government known that the family in Vegas, the Kenmore family, by the way, Kenmore is a pseudonym. I thought that a long time ago, and it was pretty much confirmed to me just recently. And I don't blame them, by the way. But they had the government, had anyone in the government, or for that matter, the extraterrestrials themselves, had the men in black, alien men in black, government men in black, whoever, had they known that there was proof on that cell phone, that would have they would have taken that from that family. That would have never made it online like it did. This is that was a disaster. It's a disaster that got disseminated into the public like it did. It's a disaster for the people who are trying to control this whole thing. That's what it is. And the debunkers, they don't have a leg to stand on. The Pentagon, I don't know, they should just come clean already, because it's over. Game's over. We see who's standing behind the curtain now, right? We see who's standing behind the curtain. It doesn't, what's the point in playing these pretend anymore? We all know it's all over. Now, I know some people will say, well, there's concerns, like I heard this one from Lou Elizondo, and there may be something to this, too. I mean, it's a lot of different people in the UFO community will raise concerns that they're not sure how the phenomenon is going to respond if the government comes out and discloses the truth to the public. Well, a lot of people already know. I mean, there's a lot of people in the government who know. The aliens have to know that a lot of people know. What does it matter? People who I know in my own life who were skeptics of this, never believed in it. Now who do believe in it, nothing's really changed with them. They didn't have, it wasn't like a catastrophe for them. And some of them are religious people. That didn't have any effect on them going to church on the weekends. It's just like one other thing. That's how most people look at this. But then there's a concern of what are the aliens going to do? All of a sudden, when the government makes an announcement, is there concerns that there's going to be like holographic alien heads appearing all over the world, and there's going to be delivering some sort of a message like, okay, now that you all know, it's about time that we're going to let you know here that we're about to subjugate humankind and it's all over, and they're going to start laughing maniacally. And is that what the concern is? None of that stuff's going to happen. That's crazy. So we already know. A lot of us already know. So that's not gonna do anything. That's not gonna change anything. And the other thing is, if the aliens are planning on something in the future and it's not the right time yet, don't tell anybody. It's not time yet. Right? Well, why should we be waiting for them? Why are we gonna sit around and wait for them to make the move? Why don't we make the move first? The whole world should know about this. The entire scientific community especially needed to know about this a long time ago. Maybe it's not too late. Let's get this monkey off our back and move on. Anyway, moving on, I want to talk about some of the recent polls I have run on Spotify. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to talk about one of them that I already talked about, but there was some more votes on it, so I'll update it. For the episode, Harvard study hypothesizes that crypto-terrestrials could be responsible for UAP. I asked this question: who is most likely responsible for all of the UFO and alien encounters that have been reported throughout the years? And there's 55 votes now. 7 people, or 12.7%, say demons from hell. That was my first thought. Back in the 70s, I didn't know what was going on. When I was a little kid, I thought it was the devil himself or a demon from hell in the bedroom, with the 3 fingers. It had 3, whatever this thing was, on its hand. Its hands weren't like ours, right? It had like 3 thick fingers that came to almost points at the tips. Not quite points, but almost points. And that's what I thought that for years. I couldn't think of anything else. I didn't know about aliens or alien abductions or anything like that, or aliens going to people's houses. So that's what I used to think. I don't think that anymore, though. But some people do. Some people think it's demons from hell. 12 people, or 21.8%, say crypto-terrestrials. Boy, I really love that scientific paper. If you haven't gotten a chance to read it, it was by those 2 Harvard guys and that guy from the Montana Technological University. Of course, the links, when I did this episode, that paper had disappeared online from online. Now it's back on again. So if you haven't checked that paper out, that was fantastic. But 12 people believe that that's what these things could be, that they were here the whole time, maybe living in the bowels of the earth, or living under the oceans, or whatever. It could be. I love the theory. I think it's very interesting, but I don't know if I agree with that one. And then 15 people, or 27.3%, say interdimensional beings. I don't know. A lot of people. There's some people I know who are really they just don't believe that could be possible. Some people I've talked to, but then there's other people who seem like I just don't know. I just don't know if that's the case. But what do I know? We just don't know. Maybe the people in the government, people in the Majestic 12 or whatever it's called, they could tell us. And then finally, 21 people, or 38.2%, say it's extraterrestrials. That's who's mostly responsible, and that's what I believe. I think that's what it is. I think that they're coming from other planets. Okay, and then for the episode, Calvine UFO witnesses' lives tumbled after talk with Men in Black, researcher reveals. I asked this question: what was the Calvine UFO? There was 37 votes so far. One person, or 2.7%, say hoax. I'll just say this, that's not even, I don't even think that's possible. That's highly unlikely. It couldn't have been a hoax. The hoax doesn't make any sense. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense when you look at the totality of the story, of the totality of that evidence. Why and how could it have been a hoax? It just wasn't. It's just not a hoax. That's why. Then the 2 people, or 5.4%, say it's a camera anomaly. Now, when you look at that picture, that's no camera anomaly. It's their big, giant, diamond-shaped object as big as life with a Harrier jet flying around in the background. It's not a camera anomaly. It's most certainly there was an object there floating in the sky. The big question is what was it? And that comes to the next 2 choices here. 6 people, or 16.2%, say they think it's a secret military craft. I don't think so, but doesn't make me right. I'm going to go with the majority, which 28 people, or 75.7%, believe that craft was extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence created. And that's what I think, because if the story is correct and that the thing was hovering there silently and then shot up straight up into the sky without a sound and just disappeared, we didn't have stuff. We don't have stuff like that. We just don't have stuff like that. I don't think we have stuff like that now. If we did, where is it? Where is it? 1990. That's 34 years ago. Come on. It was, and here's the other thing too. People say, well, some people think that it's possible. Like David Clark threw a lot of possibilities out there. He's Dr. David Clark, the researcher who's really looking into this for a long time now. For 15 years, actually. He's saying that, some people believe that it could have been, the Gulf War that was around that time. And, you can't let you don't want to let the enemy know that you have this kind of craft. But what does it matter? What would it matter? Okay, think about this. Say that was a secret military craft, right? And these 2 guys took a picture of it. And it goes on the front of the newspaper. And then say our enemies, any enemy in the world, name them, it doesn't matter. They're going to look at that and figure things out. They're not going to know anything. All it is, it's just a diamond-shaped object in the sky. They're not going to know how it's hovering there or how it operates. So that whole argument just never makes any sense. Never made any sense to me. By looking at something from the outside, just sitting there, some secretive craft, whatever. What does it matter if somebody else? I don't see how that would affect. They're going to be able to go into their workshops that night and tinker the same thing together. Come on, that doesn't make any sense. The reason I think that it was extraterrestrial or NHI is because how are they going to explain something like that? The picture was so dramatic and so unearthly, and the story that the guys had to tell with regard to how it operated. I mean, obviously, you put something like that in the paper with that picture like that. People are going to be like, wow, there are aliens. People are going to realize, they're going to open up their eyes. So the government doesn't want this to happen, obviously, right? They've always been this way, all these decades. Oh, no, right? So what do? They go and they terrify those two guys into silence. That's why I think it's NHI/ET. Okay, and then for the most recent episode, Human Men in Black versus Extraterrestrial Men in Black. Now, this was a multiple choice kind of situation here. There was only 37 votes so far with 26 days left. And I asked this question: which Men in Black encounters involved extraterrestrial/NHI Men in Black? So basically, which of these 7 cases I put on here, which one did you think involved actual Men in Black that are extraterrestrials or, controlled by extraterrestrials, not government? And so let's go through them. The least amount was the Calvin UFO case. Only 3 people, or 8.1%. And I agree. I don't think I think the Cal. Now, some people, I have received a couple of comments saying, no, I think you're wrong about that. But I don't think it was. I think it was probably government officials concerned because that picture was just so dramatic. And the story that went along with it would have raised a lot of eyebrows, and a lot of people would have started realizing that we're not alone. And I think that's what happened there. And then, 4 people, or 10.8%, say Westall School. That's only four votes for Westall School. I don't think that was. I don't think that they were ETMIB either. Most people are saying, only 4 people are saying, but I don't agree with those 4 people. I think that was probably government agents, some from Australia, along with some Americans working together. Okay, and then 5 people, or 13.5%, believe that the Rex Heflin phony NORAD encounter with the phony NORAD officials was extraterrestrial. I don't know about that one. That one's a tough one, though. That one's a big mystery there, wrapped in a riddle inside of an enigma. I'm not sure about that one. That could have been... It could have been a hoax. I mean, it could have been some jokers who just dressed up as NORAD, who wanted those pictures, who loved UFOs, and then somebody's in the family realized this, and then years later decided to return them. Maybe, probably not, though. That's a terrible. But you got to say it, right? I just don't know about that one. But then maybe the government took them, and then they forgot. Maybe they forgot to bring them back. Maybe that's what it was. And then they realized, oops. And somebody felt bad about it and said, well, we're going to return them now anyway. Could be. But I don't think that the Rex Heflin encounter with the phony NORADs, so even though 5 people do think it was the ET Men in Black, I don't think so. I think there were people. And then the Vegas alien case, 6 people, or 16.2%. That one's, I just have no idea. There's not enough information. I mean, they acted very strangely. When they saw them out front in the black Suburban, 3 people that looked the same, all turning their heads at the same time to look at them, and then turning their heads forward and then driving away quickly. Could be extraterrestrials were interested. Could be that somebody from the secret control group got wind of it and decided to check out the house to see where these people lived, and didn't expect anyone to come traipsing out of the garage at that moment, and then just like, whoa, let's get out of here. We just don't know. Could be. I'm in the middle on that one. I don't know. Oh, I missed one here, though. 5 people, 13.5%, say the Solway Spaceman. I actually do, even though I think the Solway Spaceman, and this is just my opinion, I know other people might have other opinions, I think that the Solway Spaceman was nothing. I think it was just the guy's wife got in the way of the picture, and it just looked like a spaceman. But I think the people that showed up later on that left this Jim Templeton, the guy who took the picture, stranded 5 miles from his home. I think that the way they were acting and the whole story there, if you read that whole story, it just seems like they could have been the extraterrestrial style Men in Black. And then the Rex Heflin encounter with the phony United States Air Force people. That one apparently happened in 1967. 8 people, or 21.6%, say that they were extraterrestrial MIB. I agree with those 8 people. Yes. I mean, there were a lot of weird things about that one. Now, this was after the pictures were already stolen by the phony NORAD people. So then these phony United States Air Force people show up at his house, which, by the way, prompted the Air Force to put out a memorandum stating that, hey, there's people impersonating us out there, and I want to know all about this. And the way what happened when Rex Heflin brought these guys into his house, he had the radio on in the background, and it was all crackling and popping like there was some sort of electromagnetic interference. And these guys were acting really ignorant and discourteous and rude, and they're acting strangely. And I think that was probably, well, it doesn't make me right. I just think there's a chance. I mean, here's the thing. It's okay to say this now because we know there's aliens there, right? There's aliens. There's no question about it. What are they up to? And obviously, sometimes they send out their agents, right, that look like us somewhat, and to play games with us for whatever reason, right? And I think that this is, possibly that incident there was involved with MIB who were not human or, dispatched by aliens themselves. And also, finally, 6 votes, or 16.2%, for the Johnny Sands case, which is one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard with regard to UFO, aliens, MIB, nothing. I mean, that one's top 5. It has to be. Maybe top 3. Maybe number 1. I don't know. It's one of the best stories ever. I mean, those guys... Some of those Men in Black obviously had to be alien controlled or aliens themselves, or that just seems that way to me. I don't think they were government. I'm not even sure what. There's so many different aspects to that case. There was these MIB that showed up at the hotel while he was having an artist draw the picture of the aliens that he had seen 2 nights earlier. I think that those guys were aliens. And then there was a story about seeing all these 25 to 30 MIB in the middle of the desert. I mean, that whole story there had to be, unless it was some giant prank, but why? And no one's ever stepped forward to say, yeah, we got it over him. None of that story makes any sense to me. There's a lot of aspects to it that make me believe that some of these people that Sands had to deal with after his encounter with these aliens on this lonely Las Vegas highway, it just seems like these people themselves, he was dealing with extraterrestrials again later on for some reason or other, unknown to him. And that story is just one big giant mystery. And so in closing, I just want to say that, getting back to the main topic of today's podcast is the theft. When you get some really good evidence, you got to look out. Make sure you don't let too many people know about it, and try to get it to the right people before somebody steals it from you. Just this is something that happened a couple months ago, and I don't know if it involved anything or not, but I'm just going to bring it up just for the heck of it. But somebody who's a popular name right now in the UFO community, a lot of people know him, had sent me a letter, and along with a couple of memorabilia inside that letter. And when I received the letter, the woman opened the letter, and she noticed that when she opened the top of the letter, she noticed that the side of the letter was cut, and the objects that were inside were gone. They weren't there, even though they were supposed to be there. The letter was still there, but the objects, the 2 little mementos, were not there. And I thought maybe it was, I didn't know what to think, but I ran out the door. Actually, the mailman had just dropped the stuff off, and I ran up to him and I asked him about it, and he said it could have got caught in a sorting machine, and that's how you lost the stuff that way. And that's could be. Now, the woman thinks otherwise. She thinks that somebody cut that thing open and stole those things. I don't know. But just be careful. Be careful. If when MUFON gets material that might be from another world, maybe you should get, like they used to do in the old days, put it inside of a briefcase and put a handcuff on the guy and on the courier and deliver it that way rather than sending it through the mail, which the government has access to. I'm sure the control group can do whatever they want. They probably have access to every sort of federal operation out there, and if they want to steal something, if they know that you have something that could prove to the world that that we're not alone and that this is something from an alien craft, maybe the best thing to do is not to send it in a box with the post office, because or make sure nobody knows about it. Or actually, don't send a courier with a handcuff on with a attaché case. That's what you need to do, something like that. Figure out a different method, or that could have been disastrous. If they would have lost all of this material, then there'd be nothing to talk about at that symposium coming up in July next month. Anyway, I want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.